B.3 Basic Properties of EL. In the third video of Part A, we did the introduction of EL, expression language. And we know it is a very useful technique, in Java web programming. And in our optional project number 2, so I will give you soon, I will try to practice this technology a little bit. Actually, it is very simple, but we need to get some experience using this technology. All right, so in this video, we will study the basic properties of EL. We need to use several videos to study the properties of EL. And in this one, we study two operators, the traditional dot operator and a newer version, similar purpose, but a different operator, square bracket operator. So we want to compare, these two operators. But for this video, we just, get started. Later, we will do a lot of comparisons later. All right. First, dot operator in EL. So this part is much easier to understand. So we are used to use the dot operator. So very natural. So the thinking, the logic behind it, very natural. So we're used to it. So let us go through it another time. First, when we use the dot operator, we consider two parts, right? Left-hand variable, left hand of the dot operator, and the right hand of the dot operator. But there is some special requirement for the left-hand variable. Something you cannot put there. Only certain types of variables you can put there. So we want to see that first. All right. So if the expression has a variable followed by a dot, the left-hand variable must be, now look at here, the important part, must be a map object or a bin. Only these two types of objects can be used. The first type, a map object. Second type, a bin. We know a bin just a, regular Java object. Not necessarily a Java bin. So Java bin is a special case of a bin, but it, we can use, more general Java objects. So only these two types. The map, first I want to talk about this map object a little bit. The map object has some very special structure. Key value pair. So in a map first, so we have a map object. Okay? Map, we know. So what is a map? Look at this one. What is the map? You know the list, right? We studied the list in one Java Bean tutorial. So I use the list of Java Beans to introduce that Java generics. So you should have the background of list. Now map similar to that list. So the map also interface. List is an interface. Okay, so these two both interface. So interface, that means they are not concrete classes. Interface faces. There is no constructor. Okay? There is no map constructor. There is no list constructor. You have to, in order to create a map object, you have to use a concrete class that implements the map interface. So usually, how do we construct? Sorry. All right. How do we, here, let me show you. How do we construct a map object? Okay, we do this way, similar to the list. but we also use the Java generics. Okay. All right, so map, arrow bracket, Java generics. So I hope you still remember that Java generics concept. Okay, all right. Key value pair. Remember the reason we use map. We want to store our data in key value pair. That way. So very special. But this special way has a very good property. We will use it supports search operation. Why? Search, given a key, we can find the object. Because there is a key. Okay? The key must be unique. Okay? Given a key, we can find an object under that key. Yeah. For comparison, when you have a list of object, okay, suppose you have some bin, right? You know, some bin. When you store data in this way, it does not support search. There is no key. If you need to find a particular object in this list data structure, you have to do the iteration from beginning to end. You have to do the search from beginning to end. Okay, so that's the way you find the object in the list. But if you store object in the map, you can search by key. Much more efficient, much faster. So that's the reason we use map object. So now we create a map object. String. Usually we use string as the key, but not necessary. A valid Java object can be used as the key. So that's very special. But 90-something% we use string as the key. All right, so then we need a bin. The value, usually we use some bin, okay? Our bin. We define some special bin, okay? All right. So now we need a reference variable. So let me just call my map. How about that? My map, okay? Equals that constructor, concrete class, that implements map interface. All right. So new hash map, concrete class. There's a concrete class called hash map. Java generics string. Although this part can be saved, this part can be saved, but it is better to include it. Okay, it is better to include it. Our bin, a pair of parentheses, semicolon. Okay, so in this way, we declare a map object. Then after that, we can put item, key value pair, item, into it. Okay, for example, so when we put it, so my map object dot put. Okay, we need to give a key. Let me just call my key. Right, some object, right? So you need to get an object reference. Okay, so my, suppose obj, that's the one. So we put there. So we store data. Okay. Later, some other places, after I get this map object, I want to retrieve. Okay, retrieve. So to retrieve, my map dot get search by key. So now we do the search by key, my key. So it returns that my object. So how about that? Okay, although you can call it a different name, so if you like, but the type is our bin type. You just use that our bin object. Okay, so that's the background of this map object. Because from now on, we will use map object many times. So that's the reason I spent quite some time to give you the map background. Otherwise, you will get lost. So if you're not familiar with the basic structure of map, you will get lost. So later, so you couldn't understand. So many questions you couldn't understand. Why is that? Is that way? Okay. All right. So let's continue. Yeah. So here you can see left-hand variable of that dot operator. You can only use a map object. Okay. So remember. So that's the first type, map object. Okay. The second type, a bin object. This bin, that's the the general JSP bin. Okay, so not necessary a Java bin, not necessarily a Java bin. Yeah. JSP bin. Yeah, so more general than Java bin. Yeah. All right, so that's the first thing we need to understand. Yeah. Second, the right of the dot in an EL expression. So usually what type of object do you expect at the right part of the dot operator? Yeah. So let's look at the possibilities. Yeah. First, the thing to the right of the dot must be a map key or a bin property. So you can see pretty straightforward. Yeah. Because left-hand side map object, then right-hand side should be key of that map object. Search by key, remember? Search by key. Remember that. Okay. So the first case, map key. Yeah. Or bin property. Suppose left-hand side is a bin. Now you need to retrieve a property of that bin. So very naturally, you put that property name of that bin object. Okay, yeah. So that is very natural. Okay, all right. Yeah. So here, for the first case, to get a value of a map item, yeah, map we call the item. Okay, so each one, the item has two parts, key part and the value part. So now we want to get the value part of that item, okay, through its key. Yeah, so that corresponds to the first case. Okay, the second case, yeah, to get the value of the property through its name. Yeah, value of the property. Property has a value. Yeah, but this property value could be another bin, right? It's possible. Another Java object could be the value of that property. Okay, yeah. All right. All right, so now this part, yeah. This part also a very important thing. I need to explain a little more, yeah, because it relates to what I talked about last time in the introduction, 8.3. I mentioned a little bit, but at that time, now I thought I confused one important concept. So here I want to clarify that concept. Here, yeah. All right. So this is true regardless of whether the left-hand variable is an implicit object or an attribute. All right. Okay. All right. So here you see another two cases: implicit object case and attribute case. Two cases. Implicit object. You know the JSP implicit, right? Yeah. JSP implicit objects. JSP implicit. We have that concept. Okay. That's our current background. JSP implicit objects. We have that. Okay. All right. All right. But when we talk about implicit object, we do not mean those JSP implicit object. We do not mean that. we mean another set of special object called EL, implicit object. That's different from JSP, implicit object. EL, implicit object. So basically, we have two sets of different implicit objects. JSP set, EL set. They are different. Yeah. So that could cause a lot of confusion. So that's why in the, the previous, the video 8.3, when I talk about implicit object, I automatically connect to the JSP implicit object. Now I think I should connect to EL implicit object, not the JSP implicit object. Okay, yeah. So later I will give you a list of, in the next few videos, I will give you a list of EL implicit objects. So they are different. Okay, so here the first case left-hand variable could be EL implicit object. That's the first special case. All right. Yeah. The second special case, an attribute. The attribute in different scopes: page, request, session, application. 4 different scopes. Attributes, we know that, right? We can store different Java objects in those scopes. So we call it attributes. Yeah. The attributes type data different from implicit object type data, right? Yeah. So here you may argue, you may get confused. Why? Because here we talk about the left-hand variable must be map object and a bin, these 2 cases. But here you talk about implicit object and attribute. What's the relationship? You talk about 2 different things. So what's the relationship? So now let me explain the relationship. Yeah. The relationship is we look at things from different views. Okay? It's very common. We look at things from different views. So we call them different names from different views, but the same thing. Same thing is the left-hand variable. Left-hand variable we look at from different views. Okay, all right. So here, left-hand variable. All right. The first view, the type of variables we can use, map, object, or a bin. Okay. Yeah. First view. All right. Second, implicit, EL implicit. Okay. Implicit object. Okay. Another case, attribute. Any contradiction? No contradiction. Okay? No contradiction. The relationship is, okay, all right. Map object, what's the relationship? Implicit object. First, implicit object could take 2 different forms. Yeah? Implicit object, later I will give you a long list of implicit. 8 or 9 in that category. So around 9, approximately. So we have 9 JSP implicit object. Yeah. Similar number, plus or minus 1, similar number of EL implicit object. Each EL implicit object could take different form, right? EL implicit object, some of the implicit object have the map structure, some of the implicit object could have the bin structure. Okay, attribute, some of the attribute could take map structure, right? Some of the attribute can take the bin structure, right? So no contradiction. Okay, no contradiction. Okay, so this kind of relationship. So do not get confused. No contradiction. Okay, all right. So for this background, because there's a lot of things behind one sentence. Here, one sentence, I need to use a lot of explanation to help you get better understanding. So the next Yeah, later you will see I talk about two different sets of implicit object, right? Yeah, two different sets. Yeah. Here, sometimes one implicit object, the same name, could appear in two different sets. So that's possible. Okay? For example, this page context could appear, yeah. Actually, they are different, two different objects, but they call it the same name. Yeah. So that's possible. That's possible. Okay? So the page context implicit object is a bin. Page context in EL, yeah, because here we talk about EL implicit object. Page context implicit object has the bin structure, not map structure. Not map structure. Okay. Then all other implicit objects are map object. So you can see among all the EL, so here we are talking about EL implicit object, all other EL object, only one has the bin type. Remaining all map objects. Okay, so that's the fact. Yeah. All right. Next, I want to talk about bracket, square bracket operator. Square bracket can do everything that dot operator can do. Dot operator, whatever you can do, square bracket can also do all those things, but with extra features. Extra features the square bracket operator can do, but the dot operator cannot do. So that's the extra features. For that reason, then this new version operator is used, so you can do more things. You can do more things than the traditional older version dot operator. Yeah. So that's the reason the square bracket more useful than the dot operator. Yeah. So let's look at what are those things it can do. Yeah. Left-hand variable of square bracket operator. Yeah. What are those types? Okay. Map object bin, so that's the same thing that can be done in the dot operator, but then two new things. Two new things. Dot operator cannot do, square bracket operator can do. One is a list of objects. Dot operator cannot access items in a list object. So that's not very good, because we need to frequently access list items, right? Yeah. So you can see that's the new feature for the square bracket operator. Another, an array. Dot operator cannot access array elements, but square bracket can do it. So you can see we need it. We need to access these two types of object. Okay? Yeah. All right. Then, thing inside the brackets. What kind of things we can put inside the brackets? Yeah. All right. So if the thing inside the brackets is a string literal in double quotes, yeah, literal value, so not a variable. Yeah. So we have the string, we have two different cases. The string literal case, the constant, yeah, the fixed value. Another is the name of the variable name. Yeah. So two different cases. Yeah. All right. If it's the literal, it could be a map key. So remember, so we access the item through key of a map object. Okay, object contains item with that key. Yeah. Yeah. Bin property. Yeah. Property, you use the property name included in a pair of double quotes or single quotes. Yeah. Just the quotes. Yeah. Double quotes, single quotes. Yeah. And index into list or array. Yeah. If you need to access a list object, you need to use the arrow bracket index some number. Okay? The number could be, 2, 3, or could be a variable. Okay, yeah, but here we talk about quotes, right? Yeah, 2, double quotes 2, but it treated as index 2. Okay, index 2. Yeah. Don't worry about that string. The string will be converted to number for the index. Similar thing for the array. Okay, so the double quotes. Yeah. We can do that. Yeah. Here, I just give you the basic properties. Yeah. Because later, we will learn more other properties. Yeah. For this video, we just cover this many properties. Yeah. Yeah. The main thing is we need a lot of background for, EL, how to use EL. Yeah. All right, so let me stop here. Yeah.